Accept your death.
I've learned a lot over the years being a content creator, and it's kind of tough, like, because mostly Mortal Kombat content, right? But like mixing that content up. I bring this up because you've been kind of a bit of a resurgence on your YouTube channel here, Hatyr. But it just kind of got me thinking of like, how can you repurpose one game in like a bunch of different ways that makes it kind of interesting for people to keep tuning into, right? Like that's not just gameplay, that's like maybe like breakdowns or tutorials or like react videos to certain things. That's kind of a challenge, but it is kind of cool that building a community around that stuff. And I'm sure that even with the with short amount of time that you've spent in the last little while putting more videos on your channel, you've probably noticed at least a small little community kind of starting to build and thrive there, right?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, I watched that Mr. Beast compilation. It was like 10 minutes of Mr. Beast advice or like whatever, right? But he like legitimately, like he's somewhere for a purpose, right? He did like something right. And he talks a lot about like that philosophy and stuff and expectations for your viewers, right? If you built your entire channel on ranked grinding and stuff, and then you start doing tutorials, some people might be open to that, but they might just, want to see gameplay or, you build your entire subscriber base based on instructional tutorial stuff, and then you start doing other things or posting things about other games, and then you see that's affected, right? And then I do that too as a subscriber, right? Somebody I've subscribed to, they get interested in something else, they start to try to like expand their horizons or whatever, and it's like I'm happy for you, but I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to watch that.
There's like so many memes about that, about like slowly watching your favorite content creator like turn into something else, and then it's just like that unsubscribe button kind of a thing. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, like I made a lot of tutorials on the game when it like Mortal Kombat 1 first came out. I do that for most of the games, but then there comes a point where there's like nothing else to kind of make tutorials on, so like what do you do? And then I feel like
you can kind of try to like content farm your comments and your audience, right? And you've done that before, right? Like, what do you want to see a video about? I'll just make it. And there's not always bites on that, or not like it's stuff that's already been done, or that you've already done, like even recently.
Yeah,
like whatever it may be. And it is, dude, it's like the constant battle of like consistency or do something that like your whole heart's in and like with deliberate intent. I have a really good idea that I fleshed out and stuff like that, right? It's hard to do that, like, bro, like even on a bi-weekly basis, let alone like monthly, like for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I get it. And I mean, especially when you have to like get into like a schedule of doing things, and like YouTube wants like videos all the time, and or else you'll kind of drop off the algorithm kind of a thing. So and over the years I've tried different things. I've tried playing different games, and some games have actually been super well received. I have a series, I think it's still in my playlist, called Firewatch, where I played a game that was like kind of like decision based, kind of like a Detroit Become Human, but more like indie style. And I thought about bringing it back because I could probably play that game a couple different times and not make the same decisions every time, just especially since it's been years since I've done it. So, and things like that. And then they're well received by like the core audience, but most people they're here while they're here, right? If I subscribe to someone because they're doing like World War II history or something, and they start making like Fortnite videos, I'm gonna be like, what the heck? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, one of these one of those Mr. Beast talking points, right, was consistency and quality, right? If you're worried about your content, just focus on quality and making the best thing that you can. And then the appeal of your channel is not like necessarily what you're talking about, it's the quality of whatever it is you're talking about. And people come to like whatever you want to talk about, right? Because the quality is going to be there. And that's the expectation.
Yeah, and like kind of going off that talking point of quality, we got a couple quality comments that we kind of want to go over here before we get started.
Oh my gosh, the transition game! Oh my!
I've been working on it.
I can't even handle it.
I've been working on it. So let's get into this. Speaking of community and all that stuff, so we got Neil Connor here, who says, "Buff Ashra. There's only 2 Ashras in Elder God leaderboards right now, and like at least 10 Sub-Zeros. Didn't count the Sub-Zeros, but I def counted the Ashras. Tier lists are just popularity contests and they've been an injustice to my dear friend. Get that chick some projectiles, something. This kind of has like Tom Brady vibes behind it. But I mean, I've always thought Asha was really strong. You know,
She is. I think that what makes Ashra strong is, and this is not meant to be derogatory towards anybody, right? But Ashra, and I've been playing her a lot, and the reason that because she's always fun to me, right? And I always kind of like the switching hell mode, heaven mode, try to capitalize on your debuffs. And if you want a projectile, it's a slow ass projectile, but
it's something.
she's got one of the best projectiles in the game. It's just not used traditionally, right? It's used for space control and neutral, more than like a full screen neutral sort of like projectile. And she's got the plus frames to enforce and all that stuff. It is a little, I don't want to say dry, but Ashra doesn't have the kind of like, I don't know what to call it, like wiggle dirt that other characters have, right? She's relatively like, dude, she's just so solid, right? There is nothing scarier than a fundamentally solid player with Ashra in their hands, in my opinion, more than any other character on the roster. She's just not. What do you think?
I would be happy if she stayed the same. I think she's perfectly fine the way she is. I think if you want more of a traditional projectile, the hell mode is probably your go-to. But, I mean, the heaven projectile is still pretty good, too. I don't know, she hits really hard with, like, really short combos that aren't too challenging to do. She's got good neutral. I don't know, I feel like she plays this game really well. The only thing that maybe she doesn't have, and I'm not, like, super most, like, knowledgeable Ashra player, is, like, maybe not the best synergy with cameos in a game that's centered a lot over cameos. But I could be incorrect there. When I see Ashra, I only really see her with like 2 or 3 different cameos.
Well, if I can correct you, she doesn't hit like it. I think her damage is perfectly average, even below average, without the assistance of a cameo. Her combos are like short and sweet. If you're the kind of person that just kind of like wants to play a game and not get wrapped up in combos and all of the like whatever, she's the perfect sort of character for you, right? You just rely on your fundamentals. Don't get caught up in any other stuff. I feel like that's kind of like how she's designed. But with the right cameo, she can really compensate for that lack of damage. And that's why Serena, super high synergy. Chameleon, super, super high synergy with Ashra. And they can make it that much more painful when you get punished, right? It hurts to have a character like Ashra also doing like 450 damage on a conversion. It's like, no, because by herself, she's like 300 or something, 300 and like whatever, maybe encroaching on 4, maybe just past it or something.
I think like 370 with a bar kind of a thing. But that's kind of like that's kind of what I meant. Maybe I worded that wrong. It's like, she can't just like use any cameo in the game very effectively. She has like her set ones that really, really help her. And those are good synergies. But I feel like she's not one that you could throw like Striker on or Darius on or just like most of the cameos kind of thing.
I feel like most competitive Ashras think that like her biggest weakness is just getting pinned down full screen and working your way in. She's got the Astra projection. She's got like whatever without like a teleport that can consistently compete, and she's kind of like inching her way in. And once she's in like 4-2 range, it's a totally different story. So I see relatively often Sub-Zero paired with her to kind of like use that armor as like a counter zoning sort of thing and get her into her optimal range, which is basically 4-2 range, half the screen.
Right. Yeah, she definitely neutral is not a problem for her.
No, she's one of the best neutral characters in the game. I feel like she's your neutral kind of poke heavy character.
She's hell annoying. Anyways, enough of this Ashra downplay. I will not be
good comment. I love talking about this character. She's one of my favorite characters in the game.
Grizz Moses 7472 says Kid Thunder could do Raiden's Lightning Strike from MK11. Really, you can use the same move as a grounded combo extender, similar to Serena, who acts like a projectile and a combo extender. And he should have Raiden's Electric Fly also, just because it would be funny as hell. Kid Thunder just flying across the screen at you. The only problem is that, like, Shujinkydink kind of does that, with his steel. So, I mean...
No, dude, that would be so funny. You, like, swat him away like a fly, right? But that's, like, plus frames. You're, like, caught in this animation of, like, trying to swat him away or something.
Would that be an ambush, you think? Or a summon?
Hell no. Definitely summon.
You know what would be cool is if he did the that rolling thunder move from MK11. You remember that little cloud that like goes across the ground? Like just summons
that
one of
would be
those.
kind of a cool little low drop, almost like a slow moving like jury projectile that only goes like half screen, doesn't have like a lot of range, right? But you can be coming in on top of it while it's covering the ground.
That would
the
be
lower part of it.
That would be pretty funny. I feel like there are moves that, you know, from MK11 or previous games that Raiden had that you could give Kid Thunder and still be kind of interesting without just being a Raiden clone per se. Even though technically, I
He
guess
should come
that's what
out and
he
be
is.
like, haha, and leave a lightning orb, right? And you get the one on the other side, haha, and then you've got the MKX Master of Storms
Master of
thing
Storms
going on.
Sometimes I think about revisiting that character, making like a little video again on it, see if I can remember how to play it. But that would involve playing MKX, and I don't really know if I want to commit to that at this point.
Would you? So this isn't related to the comments. I don't want to derail things too much, but there's been a dialogue online, especially hard this week, right? Of people finally trying to proclaim MK11 the best game. And then people like, oh, hell no, right? If we're going to go back, if it's not going to be MK1, then it's definitely MKX over MK11. And then that brings in like Injustice 2 was ass and all that other stuff. Well, where would you, do you like MKX more than MK11?
All right, here, I'm going to rate the games right now, right in this moment from my...
All 6 of them? Or
all
7
6
or
of them.
whatever it is?
I think there's 6 of them.
Yeah,
from
6.
My personal least favorite to my favorite.
Okay.
So I would say in this present moment, it would go Mortal Kombat 1 is my favorite. Injustice 2, second favorite. MK9, third. MKX, fourth. Injustice Gods Among Us, fifth.
Okay. And
MK11 on the bottom.
okay. I feel like most people that I talk to, right, like that's also what they feel. MK11's like at the bottom. So what is it when you think about reinstalling MK11? What is that little pit of anxiety in your belly telling you? Like, what is it that makes you not want to play that game again?
It's just so dry. Like, nobody does anything. Like, it's all the same strike throw. There's a couple exceptions, but most of them are not viable. So it's like, I don't know, I'm going to go and do the same combo over and over again. Like, that's not fun. I just don't.
Yeah.
I see what they did because MKX was a little bit too crazy, and I definitely agree. It's to the point where it's not really fun to play. Guess wrong, there's half your health gone, boom, game's over. So, but they went way too far the other way with it. And I see what they were going for, but they overshot it big time. And I feel like MK1 is that perfect mix, like right in the middle, with a little bit of craziness, but the fundamentals are still there. And you have all combo creativity and all that kind of stuff with cameos and whatnot. So yeah, that's
they forgot to put tech rolling back in the game when they removed wake up rolls from MK11, right? Like, and that wasn't going to be part of this game. They forgot, like literally everything's a hard knockdown for like whatever reason. But I agree, and I don't like when you knock somebody down, right? You're just mixing yourself up. It's like, okay, now I'm guessing between 4 or 5 things. Awesome. Or breakaways and them standing up and punishing you or whatever, being flawless blocked out of your own hit advantage and locked or whatever, counterpoke flawless block, the quote-unquote mind games, are they going to amplify the move or not, right? That sort of stuff. I'm glad they brought back armor. I'm definitely glad they figured out the meter build thing because they knew that was a problem, right?
Yeah,
in between
sure.
MKX and Injustice 2, there was definitely some lopsidedness, and so they decided to just have it regenerate automatically and split it between offense and defense, which I think was a fine experiment, right? I don't think it worked, but I'm not mad at them for trying, but it definitely didn't work out in my opinion.
No, and yeah, again, see what they were going for. And by the way, that's not my rankings for how good I think the games are, by the way, because MK9 is a fucking hot mess. But I enjoy it, and it brings back a lot of good memories for me, which is why it's like so high on my favorites list. But it would be pretty close to the bottom if I was doing like best to worst, like on mechanics kind of thing. So that's probably and that's a topic I could go off on another day. Well, we're still getting through comments here. We got one last one to go. Raptor5743 says, I like this Blue Raz Rush guy. Maybe him and Hatyr should run a 100-game set for the spot of co-caster. And I do want to give a shout-outs to Blue, who came in on very short notice and helped me out.
You know, and he's always in the chat and stuff too, right? If you're ever in any of your streams or whatever, he's always in there. So, you know, voiced and name like sort of stuff. What a good opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good friend. He's helped me out a lot over the years. So, and speaking off of that, you weren't actually here last week to give your opinion on the most recent updates, and we are here today because I know you have been on a Frost frenzy, my friend. I'm seeing you play Frost. I'm seeing you play Movado, all these different cameos, and you're back on the Melina train. What kind of stood out to you the most in the most recent update that you wanted to kind of go over?
Frost. She's good now. She's still not like super. I don't think that her toolkit applies to a broad part of the roster, but she actually has really good synergy with a handful of characters now.
And what changed, do you think? Was it just the wall that changed that, or was it something else that changed that?
So the wall's an interesting ambush, right? Like we've talked about this before. It's not like other ambushes that like extend your combos, but it's more like you still need to capitalize on the damage. But if you're paired up with a character that gets especially damaging corner combos instead of mid-screen, right? You're just using the ambush that way instead and just getting your corner combo or your corner setup or whatever it is, which is really good. But I think what finally kind of, and I think a lot of people are starting to see the light on that.
Right.
This hotfix, though, did a couple things with, in particular, with the Frost Orb cancel. So it cancels faster, but I think the more important part is that the playable character recovers sooner. So even if it's not like a completely tight orb setup, or you're trying to do it neutral and they're trying to call it out with something forward advancing, you have a greater chance to block now, even if Frost gets hit and the orb doesn't come out. You still, so if they're trying to beat it with like say Shadow Kick or something, they're trying to armor out of it.
Right.
Even if Frost gets hit and it's not a super tight setup, you can still block in time and get your punish. It's super good, which makes it, you have to kind of like respect it now a lot more, because then they increase the cooldown time from the cancel and stuff too to kind of give you more incentive to do it. So you're in these kind of like, is it real, is it not sort of setup things, and you just cancel it. And like, what are they doing? Are they just trying to armor every time? Are they just going to sit there and respect it? And once they start respecting it, and they're just respecting Frost, right? That could turn into a Frosty's Revenge or chip damage that they normally could duck, but they're too busy blocking, expecting something else. The Ice Crash, whatever, a feigned Frost Orb, or nope, now you just sat there. You literally sat there and stared at me casting this Frost Orb for a solid second and didn't do anything about it because I have options now, right? I think it's a good change.
I remember playing around with Frost, like, kind of before all these changes, and I was just viewing that Frost Orb cancel, and I was like, why would I ever use this? This is terrible. And like then the cooldown was bad, but messing around with it afterwards, it's like, it's actually pretty scary. And I played a couple casual matches against somebody using Frost yesterday. I think it was Johnny Cage Frost, actually. And that ambush wall is really good in that particular instance because, like, you're trying to, like, backpedal away from Johnny Cage, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell? There's a wall in my way now. I can't go back anymore, and Johnny Cage is in your face, and it's like...
So I try to... So that's my team. I play Natara Frost, and I try to use it the same way, right? If they're just going to be kind of, like, creeping back, and it's like, nope. You know, a little wall behind you to kind of keep that from happening.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
It's kind of like claustrophobic almost, you know, like you know there's space there, but you can't access it. It's kind of a, I don't know, I don't like it. But I mean, that's the point of it, right? It's just to wall you in, quite literally. And I think I saw you once or twice, maybe, like, hit a combo with Natara that was so high that it almost threw them over the wall, or at least it looked like it was going to.
You get, that's always on accident. Sub-Zero I can do it super consistently with is jump 2-1 that like knocks them right over the wall, and then you've got that barrier between and they can't hit you, but you can hit them, or their projectiles don't go through, but yours do. Like their normals will still go through if you're too close to the wall and stuff, but like armored moves and shit like that won't go through. It's like, you know, Peacemaker doing the torpedo out of the bone dome. He still makes it out, right? But the hit got absorbed.
Right.
And so he just kind of like whiffs it.
That's so fun. That character fell off so hard. I don't think I've seen anyone... Actually, that's not true. I played one in a tournament that was actually still really good. But
I see them floating around Rips Arena and stuff like that every once in a while.
I just remember everyone playing him and he fell off hard. I still think that after all the change and stuff, the Homelander is still a top 3 character. Easy.
You think?
Easy. Still has all the
I
crazy
don't know much
mix.
about him. I gotta say, I haven't been playing Combat League the last couple seasons and stuff, and definitely not since he's been out. So
He's
I catch him
still
every once in a while, like on streams and stuff, but I don't know a whole lot about him.
he's still got like the floating shenanigans. Like he can end his combo in like that choking move and like drop you to the ground in the corner, and like you can't really tell if he's on the ground or in the air, so you don't really know when eye lasers are coming or it's just an
'Cause he
overhead
floats,
kick.
right?
Yeah. So I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it's in the game and it's here. So, but
You're a big fan, I can tell.
yeah. I actually was messing around with him in practice mode yesterday because I was going into. I'm in a bit of a character crisis right now. You know, I really hope something changes with Quan Chi in the next little while. Like, I'd really hope. I don't know. They gave him that kick, which helps in some situations, but it's not what he needed at all. And I really think that like, I'm not usually a fan of this, but like giving him like just standard 1,000 health would be really nice. You know, I'm again not usually a huge fan of health balancing, but it seems to be what they're doing. So like that could be a change that you made to him, because that would make a lot of cameos open up a little bit more for him.
I don't even disagree. He's the only roster, or he's the only character on the roster that starts with a health deficit and does not have the ability to get health back. Right?
Yeah.
Natar's got blood sacrifice. Geras has his 1-bar breaker that gives him the health back from where the combo started, sort of thing, and that could blow up in his face, right? But he can still, so he can get back chunks of health at a time. Quan can't do that. What are they doing giving him 900 health? Did they think that he was going to be that oppressive?
I think the idea was to compensate for the fact that he can armor himself, kind of for a bar of meter. I think
they added the armor after the fact, after he already came out with 900 health, and then they added the armor portal. That was his first little gift, right? And then he got the new mid kick or whatever.
And my second theory is glass cannon. That's kind of what they were thinking. Like, if you get in on him, he's dead. Like, that's the idea. He's supposed to keep you away. The problem is he doesn't really do that, and he can't really do that in this game unless they add something else. Like, they gave him all these tools, but for some reason they just don't all work very well. You know, like in theory, you get close and he puts that little push away portal out and just hides behind that and does whatever. I mean, certain characters like Scorpion can teleport and stuff, but you're going to have that in any game. It doesn't really matter. So it's
I think Quan has a great tool set, and when the stars align, he is so scary, right? When you just have like 3 things out on the screen and I'm caught in armor, I feel like I have literally no options and I'm just stuck here holding this. But even then, the mix-ups, you still have kind of like mix, right? At the very least, like strike throw sort of stuff, but it's not that scary all in all, and it's hard. I feel like consistency is hard. A lot of his stuff is, I don't know, would you say it's like situationally good, but hard to make consistent? What do you feel like is the big hole in the game plan where you feel like you just steamroll sometimes and then other times you can't even get your game started regardless of, you know, that's just kind of the psychology of fighting games, right? That happens regardless, but it sounds like it's more of a Quan issue.
Yeah, like it's the thing with Quan is like I find that the only times I really steamroll is when my opponent doesn't really know the matchup. They don't know how to block him properly. You know, it sometimes it adds a little bit of mix with Motaro with the 2-1-4 into the low shot, but even that's reactable for the most part. So I don't know. It really just turned. What am I going to do? Throw you? Like if you're in the corner where ideally I'm armored up and that's where you're at, you're just going to tech the throw, or I do a back throw and throw you out of the corner, and then you just run away from my thing, which is fine. And that's a strategy I've used sometimes. It's like I'll put up the armor portal, especially if my back's to the corner, and everyone just instinctively wants to run away. And I'm like, okay, fine, purple portal, bam, start throwing shit at you. Like, that's what I want to do anyway. So, like, thank you for making my job easier. But, like,
they need to shave a frame off his standing 1 or down 1, in my opinion.
I am actually more than fine with keeping his slow buttons. I am totally glass cannon. Go with that if that's how they want to do him. But they need to make his zoning more impressive. They need to make that. And I've been saying that since day one, and maybe that's just my bias, but it really feels like they want him to be the zoner. So, like, they need to beef that up a little bit, in my opinion. I don't know.
I think the fact that he can't gel a 7 frame, and that might be a good drawback for a character that's meant to be more full screen, even if that's not the strongest thing in the game or whatever. I feel like both the standing one and the down one is a little bit overkill. Like one or the. Would you rather have a 7-frame standing one or 100 health?
Oh, that's a good question. That I don't even need to think about. I'm taking the 100 health. I don't want to use my standing one. I don't want you to be close enough to me for me to want to use my standing one, you know?
Thinking more like, so when somebody's -7, right? A 7 will gel. It won't punish, but it'll gel. For some reason in this game, like you can't even crouch, right? Once you're -7, if they frame perfect a 7 frame and you're not holding the block button, you're going to get hit. The reason that's important is because things like Kung Lao's armor is exactly -7. Melina's forward 3, a staple of like her Oki game and stuff like that, -7. One blocked forward 4. Any character on the roster, 2 of them can punish her for it, Liu Kang and Kung Lao. Every other character on the roster besides Quan Chi can at least gel a standing one, right? Can just take their turn, ensure that they have a turn, like no matter what. And Quan can't do that. I feel like that would be the appeal of a 7-frame standing one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be useful. I mean, if they're going to give it to him, sure. But if like they put me in the chair at NRS and said, here, make one change to this character, and that's what we're going to roll with. I would not choose making any of his buttons faster. I would.
All right.
And that's just my personal opinion. There's Quan Chi players that don't play him as a zoner, which is probably maybe a little bit more easier to play in this game as opposed to the way that I try and play, especially with Motaro, like 850 health. Like, come on now. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see if they change him at all when the Chaos Reigns patch drops. I'm actually curious to see how Quan Chi kind of like fits into the story at all. I mean, do they just keep the fact that you defeated Quan Chi and Shang Tsung, or do they both come back from different timelines with Havoc? Do they even exist in this story? Like, I don't even know what they're going to do with them.
Well, the Havoc stuff is all the Order of Darkness stuff, right? I think anybody with an Order of Darkness skin, we can expect an appearance of them wearing that costume.
I think
probably.
Quan had his Order of Darkness skin. Is that his Titan skin?
Quan's the only DLC that's had a bunch of extra skins and stuff, and it's because he was supposed to be a main roster character.
Yeah. Yeah, him and I think Ermac has some stuff too.
Ermac, yeah.
But we'll see what happens with Takeda if they put some more stuff in with Takeda, because he definitely was not meant to be main roster. I'm pretty certain he was always planned to be DLC. But we'll never know the truth. So, anyway, so this is a really long-winded way of saying that I decided to look at the roster and like pick out different characters. I was playing around with some Homelander because I'm just like, I'm hoping the Chaos Reigns updates will shake a bunch of things around anyway. So I don't really want to play Super Serial right now. Just have some fun, pick up some different things.
Yeah.
Homelander was kind of interested to me. I actually came up with a combo that does, I think, 217 damage that only does eye lasers with a Homelander and Kano in the corner. I might record that as a funny short. It's pretty funny. just messing around with little things like that. But playing around with a bunch of characters, and I actually landed on Scorpion. Young Scorpion is kind of who I think I'm going to mess around with. Scorpion and Shujinko together. And they hit pretty hard. It's good synergy. So it's similar to like Sindel, where like his combos are fairly long. They're not as long as Sindel's, but they're fairly long, so that he can kind of recharge Shujinko back as he's doing it. Not fully for the most part, but sometimes. Struggling with his 1-bar combos a little bit, so I've kind of just gone a meterless route. But yeah, he is like, I think after like...
And you've got the restand like Sindel does in the middle of a combo, right? As long as it didn't start that way, you've got like a restand on deck.
That's another huge thing about him as well. That yeah, I think they're the only two that have a restand. Like the combos, if I'm remembering. Someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just those two, and that's huge for Shujinko, because that like opens the doors to so many different things, and so many different conversions, and so much more damage. So I've been kind of messing around with them, learning a character. Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually learned a new character, so I'm kind of excited to go on this journey and see what this brings with me for the next, was it 3 weeks until the update, I guess?
Yeah, and learning characters is fun. I've been going around and learning characters and stuff as well. I feel like brain capacity's kind of like freeing up, and philosophical cameo sorts of things. So it's cool to see people kind of jumping around and exploring a little bit more outside their comfort characters, or not even. I don't know. I feel like yesterday, so you participated in the Champion the Realms thing, right? And I feel like this is a really common thing when it's online tournament day. Here it comes. It's just going to be doom and gloom, right? All this hype leading up to it. And about an hour later, everyone's just going to be just fucking moping around or whatever. And that's kind of like what started the whole thing yesterday. But it's cool being put into a situation where it's like, well, maybe I should at least humor the idea of like other characters, right? And giving them like really serious looks.
Well, even like
thinking about a game plan and things like that. And
even like my idea yesterday was like, okay, I guess I have to play a meta pairing in order to like compete in this game or whatever. And then I just totally didn't land on a meta pairing. But I'm having so much fun with this though. Like Shujinko is just such a fun cameo. They did him so well. Like he's just, I don't know. I feel like he would fit with any character. Any character. You could use Shujinko and you'd be fine. He gives everybody something, And it's just accelerated with Scorpion is my finds so far. Because I'm having trouble opening up people with that pairing a little bit, I will say. Because I don't really have a solid overhead. But
nope.
You can't have everything.
You certainly do not.
Can't have everything. So, I mean, if I wanted that, I would play Scorpion, Then you'd have that.
Scorpion, Pharah.
Scorpion Pharah. That's the meta pick that I'm seeing for Scorpion right now. Just like the back three into whatever, low overhead.
I feel like the Tara Pharah, Scorpion Pharah are like the prominent Pharah teams I'm seeing around like online and stuff.
Homelander Pharah is good too. Pharah is just...
Oh yeah, Homelander Pharah.
It's the Pharah meta right now. She's just kind of what she does. Offers everybody kind of... It's not unseeable mix, but it's fast. You've dived into her a little bit more than I have. It's fast. And she's fairly safe on everything. Like Quan can't punish.
Dude, that low is a slap on the wrist. -10 with that sort of range still, and you're only punishing that like right up close, right? Like if it like canceling it from a string right up in your face sort of thing. But the way people use that low anyway is like always mid screen, sometimes even full screen and meaties and shit like that.
That's
right?
stupid.
Not gonna do. I was listening to Honeybee talk about it yesterday. He's like, if you're gonna make it punishable, make it punishable, right? What's this -10 bullshit? Make it like -15 or something. Like, why are you flirting with the idea of it being punishable? Like, it seems so dumb.
It's more like a take your turn back than an actual punish. Is kind of how I've looked at it. Anyways. Maybe I'm wrong on.
And it's better than it being -5, which is what it used to be.
That's annoying. Like, just make it neutral at that point. What the fuck? Like, I don't know. It's stupid, but it is what it is. Every fighting game that I've ever played always has some sort of this is the character of the week or whatever. This is the whatever of the week, And it's nothing new. It's just we're going to go through it. They're probably going to change some stuff, and somebody else will be at the top. So, I mean...
Dude, how long was Chameleon at the top? She's not so much, she's still really good, and she has a lot of synergy with everybody and super high synergy with, a good portion of characters on the roster, but you don't see her as much anymore since they kind of made those adjustments. I think the 50 health loss is probably what turned off a lot of people, but there is some other changes, but she's still out there and she's still like super strong and not 95% of the cameo picks and things like that. But the Chameleon era seems to be over. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say I see her about not quite as much as Pharah, but between her and Janet are like close seconds. Janet, just because of the one ambush move, I still don't see too many people using the Gento stuff. People that do use that, it's actually pretty sick. So, I mean, I've been kind of working on it a little bit myself, just because I would love to use like Quan Janet. I think that's his best pairing. But I mean, man, my brain and my hands with those inputs, they're not a good mix. I have a really hard time doing those. But it looks super cool when you get something going. But yeah,
I think if you're not on pad, it's really hard to do that sort of stuff, right? If you're on stick or Leverless or something and be expected to hold like both the block and cameo button and your attack buttons and directionals and all that stuff is like, my hand doesn't work like that mechanically, right? Like it just...
I didn't even think about that. Have you even attempted that stuff on Leverless? Because you play on Leverless.
I have. Here's the thing. When you play when you play on stick or leverless, right, you start to learn some things about the anatomy of the hand, namely about finger independence, right? Your middle finger and your index finger move very independently. They're your strongest fingers, like sort of thing. Your ring finger and your pinky finger, I mean, they share tendons or like whatever, right? Try to move them separately from each other and you're at least budging them a little bit, right? So trying to do like really delicate or precise things with both of those it's just easy to make input errors, and it's hard when you need to like stretch around and you're using both or whatever. It just doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, and I mean, I have tried Leverless over the years. I've never really hard committed to it. But that's something that I actually should touch on because it's interested in me more and more. And part of it's just me getting older and, gaming sessions tend to hurt the hands a little bit more. I wanted to ask you about your transition to Leverless. Like how, because the big thing is like the up button, right? The up button being on a weird spot. And you've told me before that like that goes away pretty fast, correct?
Yes, and how I would put it to you would be like, let's say Mortal Kombat is your very first fighting game, and you're like, fuck, I just keep holding down back to block. There's a block button, right? You have to keep reminding yourself to hold the block button, hold the block button, hold the block button. It's the same sort of thing. You're reminding yourself that up is on the bottom, up is on the bottom, up is on the bottom. But it's like really awkward for like I would say the first 2 or 3 days of like grinding, because it just takes up so much of your mental. Like you just have to always be mindful of it, but then you just don't even think about it. And all of the perks, not even just about like hand pain and stuff. SOCD, simultaneously occupied cardinal directions, right? Since you can do directional inputs on it that you can't on a pad or a stick, like holding both backwards and forward at the same time. What is the game supposed to do? Right?
Right.
Capcom has regulations about that, being if you're holding back and forward at the same time, opposite directions, that should be a neutral input, and same with up and down. But this ends up turning into shortcuts, right? Like, so if I can get to neutral without just not holding any button, but by holding 2 buttons of opposite directions, that can actually give me the neutral I need for like a DP or something like that. And things. Mortal Kombat has no such regulation, and they use the old school, just like whatever, which is input override. If I hold back and forward at the same time, whichever one I hit second is the input that's going to be registered. So while I'm walking backwards, and say I'm playing Melina, right, and I'm just walking backwards or I backdash, I tap forward without lifting up my ring finger, which is still holding back. This is assuming I'm on player one side. A projectile comes out, right? No stopping what I'm doing and back forward. I'm just already walking backwards. I tap forward, or like twice, right? So I tap forward and release, you get the fresh back input, and then hit forward again and you get a little projectile, right? And you can do that back and forth. Back forward inputs in particular, I think work really well, especially if like Ashra has a back 2 and a back forward 2, and the input reader already reuses inputs. That was like the classic doing tick grab. When your command grabs were down, back, and forward, right? And you had a tick grab off a down 1, say like an MKX. You could do down 1, back forward, and then your grab button. You didn't have to do the down, back, forward. It's reusing the down input that was already in there, right? So you can do the same thing. Back 2, forward 2, right? Back 2, forward 2, back. Like without releasing the 2, right? Just really quick cancels and stuff. Leverless makes all that super, super easy. And being able to get back forwards by basically just tapping the opposite button that you're holding, it's fun. It feels very fluid, and you get like some little benefits to be like holding. So like with Movado in his down cameo to take away their wake up, right? If I do a forward 4 as Melina and I'm plus 34, I can be holding up forward so I jump at the first possible frame, and then without releasing that, I can hit down in cameo to get the little slide thing at the last possible point of my hit advantage right before they can wake up while I'm already jumping, right? And I don't have to lift up any fingers or time in between up and down or anything like that. I can just kind of do that all together. I feel like that's like leverless privilege in this game. It doesn't have as much as like say something like Street Fighter, but there's cool little shortcuts. If anybody else out there uses leverless and things, share that with me. I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
I would love to know any that I'm not aware of.
So other than the up button being in a funky spot, would you say there's any other downsides to a leverless setup?
We were just talking about stance, right? Gento stance sort of stuff. That sort of stuff sucks. I
Yeah,
don't like it at all because my cameo button's my ring finger on my right hand and my block button's my pinky finger, and having to hit both of those at the same time, even something as simple as Cyrax, moving him around before he drops the bomb, and I don't want to move around with him, so I have to hold block and cameo at the same time and try to
right.
do things. That's not so bad, right? But once you start hitting attack buttons like you are with Sento and things like that, and letting go of block and for fluttering it or doing whatever you need to do, that's really hard on my phalanges, my last two, my ring finger and my pinky, right? That's the sort of stuff that I feel like is kind of like a disadvantage. That stuff is way easier on pad. I feel like it's designed for pad.
So I've always played Mortal Kombat on pad, but I do have a stick. I have a Quanba Obsidian, and I use that for any game that's a back to block. So Street Fighter, Injustice. I think that's it. That's all that I play. I actually used
Right.
it on Soul Calibur for a little bit, even though that has a block button, but I don't know, it just felt like I should be using stick on that game. But one of the main reasons, like, especially this was more so, like, I started this in Injustice Gods Among Us because I was going to be playing both games simultaneously at events. I didn't want what you mentioned earlier about that muscle memory of going to hold back to block in a game that's not hold back to block. So I felt like having a different controller for different games kind of made it a little bit easier for me. And I never really struggled with that. When I had the pad in my hand, it felt like I should hold the block button. When I had my stick in my hand, it was easy to like just hold back to block, you know? It just helped
That's
my
a good
muscle
way
memory.
to compartmentalize, right? I'm glad that works for you. We've talked about this before, and I think that it depends on how your brain's wired and how it develops muscle memory and like what it's thinking about, in my opinion, because I can't do that. Like when I'm holding a pad or I've got a leverless, right? Like when my brain says block, I just know that that's the right trigger on pad, and that's going to be like my last button on the top row on leverless. I'm not thinking about. So if I'm trying to get away from something, say like down back versus something else, right? My brain just thinks down back. If I'm in leverless, I'm using two fingers to hold down and back. If I'm on pad, I'm just using my thumb to like hold it. I'm not. The peripheral doesn't make a distinction for me. It's just the way that it gets translated to my fingers. So that doesn't work for me, unfortunately. When I'm kind of like jealous, because I would love to kind of break things up that way.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. Maybe there's different ways that people can find things that work. Like I know people use like a variety of different controllers or different mods. Like we even like for example at Evo when Retro forgot his controller and used mine, while mine has a modded D-pad to where they're individual buttons, and he was getting all sorts of missed inputs because you have to go a little bit hard on the back, and I already know, like, I'm just like wired into like, okay, I have to press that button a little harder than on the standard pad.
Exactly. And it's what you're used to and what you're acclimated. It's like borrowing somebody else's shoes or something. Like how fucking awkward is borrowing. Brown Boy shout outs, hashtag Bonehawks and all that stuff, right? Was
Hashtag
talking about.
Bonehawks.
So he's an Xbox player, but it's playing on PS5 for this tournament today, the PS5 controller. And he's like, man, this controller's ass. And it's probably inferior compared to the two, but most of it, I think he's just used to Xbox, right? Just using a different controller, period.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, shout out to Brown Boy. He just went 2-2 at his first offline event. So with a PS5 controller. How impressive.
Yeah.
How good he would have done with an Xbox controller. Like, come on now.
Dang.
Like, over the years, I've seen all sorts of different controllers and things and pads. And I remember Jimmy Potato back in MK9 days had like this special like WWE pad, fight pad thing that he used. And like, I remember it broke once and he had a really hard time finding another one. And he was so heartbroken about it. But
Oh,
It's
that
like-
does suck.
it's like something that can be so personalized, and I think it's cool. Like fight sticks, especially, you get all sorts of different parts on the different buttons, different sticks. You get different weights on the actual stick itself. Like this,
Yep.
it's just so cool to have like controllers be so customizable. You know, it's I don't know, it's just like an extension of you kind of a thing.
Oh, one other thing I was going to say about leverless is that instant airs are like a million times easier for me anyway. I was never very good at them on pad.
Oh,
And they're like literally no problemo. And when I play a character whose main opener is a dive kick, I got to tell you that it feels pretty fucking good on leverless. Flying around, air dashing, and dive kicking or whatever feels way better to me on leverless than it ever could on pad.
So I remember back in the Injustice Gods Among Us days, This was when Leverless was like just coming out, and it was kind of controversial, and they were kind of like there was talks about
Yeah, they're
banning
saying
it
it's
and
cheating.
saying it's cheating. There was a player, I believe the tag was Relaxed State, who played General Zod. And in that game, General Zod versus Lex Luthor was the absolute most busted matchup in NRS history. Like
Worst NRS matchup of all time, right? Like 9-1.
a 9-1 matchup pretty much. And he could get the instant airs just so close to the ground, and that matchup actually happened in a tournament on stream one time, and people got to see how busted, like...
This is Zodball!
It is an injustice, get it? Because the game's called Injustice.
This is the worst matchup in the history of fighting games.
All right, stream, we have no...
That thing actually is. And one of the rounds, Lex actually got in. I think it was Revolver playing Lex, and like took a round, and it was like one of the hypest things you ever see. Like you think that he just won Evo, like the pop off from people, just winning one round.
The true underdog.
Yeah, it was I would just remember. I ended up losing the set pretty handily after that. But I mean, just that one round of Lex Luthor getting in, doing a bunch of Lex Luthor crazy mix stuff, and then taking a round in a 9-1 matchup was pretty hype. So that's kind of like my introduction to Leverless, and like seeing just like how low and crispy, he could get those. And I remember talking to him about it, and like, oh yeah, it's freaking easy. And I was like, do you think that should be like considered cheating? He's like, yeah, probably. But here I am.
I feel like Eris has a really good opinion about it. He's like, fuck yeah, it's cheating, right? The same way that pad's cheating, right? The only true way to play fighting games on an arcade stick, and that's not through like prestige or old school or trying to condescend anybody, right? But the mechanical limitation, like when people started moving from stick to pad, it was the exact same conversation. The range of motion is so much smaller that it does feel like cheating compared to people that are using sticks. And now with Leverless out there, if you're using a stick, it's just because that's what you like to use, right? It's mechanically inferior. So it kind of is, and until they do something, I don't think they're going to do anything about it. What they do is try to do things like the SOCD, sort of like regulation things to try to keep some of the silly business to a minimum, but all it does is create new shortcuts and stuff. But it's an unstoppable force, right? And dude, especially in the Street Fighter arena, because you have like drive parry and or drive impact and parry things that you can macro, and you need like really easy access to that. But it's a 6-button game, right? 6 of your 8 buttons are taken up by attack buttons, and so you have 2 extra ones for macros. And a lot of them, they want to macro like all 3 punches or all 3 kicks, because that's what you need for like Zangief for other sorts of moves, right? So these ones with all the extra buttons you're starting to see around a lot, or maybe it's still just the regular 12-button sort of thing, but a couple of the buttons are in different spaces. Like they're in range of the thumb and the index finger now instead of being relegated to the pinky. Things like that. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think that if people are being honest with themselves, it's like, yeah, compared to the other things, it feels like cheating because it's cheating, but whatever.
Makes it easier. I kind of agree with that. But it's just the evolution of things, it makes it easier. And if you want to be, hold on to the fight stick and whatever, people are still winning tournaments on stick. It's not like it's like a useless thing now, but
no,
it's just,
yeah.
It's like, just using a not top tier character, you can still win things and perform. You just maybe have to do a little bit sharper or be a little bit more careful.
It's not like it's reacting for you. It can decrease. It's not decreasing reaction times. It's about the execution of that, right? Once you've made the decision, being able to do it, and it literally is just whatever you're the most comfortable with. If you're more comfortable on stick and not just stick, right? But like the Korean bat stick handle sort of thing versus the Japanese round knob sort of thing, and the Sanwa versus whatever, and the square gate versus the 8-way gate and all that stuff. And stick's kind of fun for stuff like that. Like stick culture is like a collector's item, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's cool.
It's a cool little community, and they're really tight knit. And every time I'm at a tournament, I always make a point to go and check out the stands and see what they're selling and see what's new and exciting. Even though I've never modded my stick, and I don't plan to, but it's just kind of a cool little corner of the community to check out.
They make a letterless conversion kit for the for your stick, the Obsidian. I turned mine into that was my first leverless. I bought like a kit from Arcade Shock or something like that. Somebody at my local had one.
Damn. I want to
But
look
yeah,
at
with the new chassis and everything, right? So I've got it's sitting on my shelf right now. Stick's gone forever. It's got 12 buttons now instead.
I feel like if I were to go leverless, I would just buy one. I think my Obsidian is just a little bit too chunky for,
It weighs. So that's my biggest problem with it. It's so hard for me to have that on my lap for, like, whether it's leverless or not, right? Something that big on my lap for extended periods of time is just too much. Leverless is nice. And they're really affordable now. There's really good ones out there. You could get a solid one for less than 100 USD.
Oh, yeah. I might look into that and just see kind of if I like it or not. Who knows? I mean, maybe I'll get into it. Maybe I won't. I say a lot of things and then do other things. So, I mean, who knows? Who knows? You don't
For
want
me, it was worth trying, right? You get those How to 42 ones that are floating around. You see a lot of those, like people, because they're the most affordable ones. And I think it's worth, like, that's an $80 experiment to see if you like it. And then if you do, and you feel like you want a nicer one, you want to spend $300 on the Razer version for whatever reason, then you can do that.
Brand names matter. I'm finding that out with back to school with my kiddo. Oh my goodness, brand names matter.
Oh,
People
man.
love the names.
Dude, it's crazy. The Kitsune, the Razer leverless, it's $100 more than a hitbox. It's great. But it is kind of like the Rolls Royce. It's just a nice, comfortable chassis, and it's well laid out, good form factor and things like that. It's fine, but it is definitely overpriced like most Razer things. But
Now, speaking
whatever.
of a comfortable chassis, we should touch on Sektor a little bit more before we kind of end here.
Dude, the transition game, I can't believe it.
Not my best work, but it's there.
No, that one was good. That was way better than the first one. I'm impressed.
Thank you. There's not much to go over here, so this is just kind of like a short. But since you were away last week too, we didn't really get to touch on a couple of the teasers that Ed Boon has been tweeting out about Sektor. One of the big ones is that she's Madame Beau's daughter, and I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is that exciting for you? Is that intriguing for you? Do you not care one way or the other? Or?
With the writers in this game, I feel like it's just completely arbitrary. I feel like it's going to have no meaning whatsoever. They just did it just to do it because it would be kind of like, oh, cool, sort of thing. But I don't think it's going to have any deeper meaning. You
don't think that that'll mean that we'll see more like Madame Beau in the story mode or something like that, or like kind of links between the two?
No, I think it's just an intro that they just threw in for like what it just seems to be kind of like what they do. She might be in the story. It'd be dumb not to have her in the story at least for a moment, right? Because she's so hella popular.
Yeah, people loved that character.
I bet you they did not think when they were fleshing out this game and stuff like that. That was a total afterthought. The Sektor thing, Madame Beau mother thing would be like, that would be cool because people like Madame Beau anyway. That's what it feels like to me. But she looks cool. She looks mean. She looks mad, right? Like that intro or whatever. I'm all about it.
Menacing.
Mad lady with a big old rifle and rockets and fire and stuff. Sign me up. She's definitely we haven't seen noob gameplay yet, right? But she's definitely the head of the pack for me personally right now, out of the three.
I'm pretty stoked to try her out. I was excited when I saw that rifle return. Because we haven't seen that in like generations for Mortal Kombat, for Sektor at least. I think it only made the one appearance, but here it is, back again.
I did not know I wanted Sektor rifle until they gave it to us.
I think they're having
I think it's cool.
Gameplay trailer for her drop on Wednesday this week, so we'll have a lot to go over next week on what we kind of see on that. I'm pretty stoked. And like even like her and Cyrax's intros, like they're just so cool. They're just like little acrobatical shit. Like it's just, I don't know. It's super cool. I'm super stoked for everything that's coming in a few weeks here. They've done a good job of kind of hyping it up a bit, I think.
We'll see, and then a new will be the last one, right? Maybe they're saving the best for last, leading up to the coming weeks, and then we'll probably get some more teasers. When did we get when was the Cyrax, the like little story trailer thing? That was a couple weeks ago, right? And they teased with some gameplay like a week before that. So we've got the story trailer for Sektor coming up now, which means in just a couple weeks' time, we'll be getting Noob and then whatever the final rush of hype thing's going to be leading up to the DLC. I still haven't pre-ordered it.
Oh, yeah, I did that like the day they announced it. But, I mean, a lot of people didn't, and I don't really blame them. I think a lot of people are waiting to see whether that's kind of worth it or not, too, right? So
I feel like it literally doesn't matter until... If you want the bonus skins and stuff like that, Like it does as long as you remember, like you don't forget. Like if you wait till like the day before, like I do sometimes, right? If I'm really stoked, then I just do it on the spot to make sure I don't forget. And then, PlayStation's reminded me about it and even fucking downloads it for me without me even thinking about it, like with Elden Ring and all that sort of stuff. But I haven't done that with this one yet.
It's funny how like we used to pre-order like so that we wouldn't miss out on copies, so we can guarantee ourselves a copy of the game, and now like everything's digital, so that's like kind of redundant now, but like it's like, hey, pre-order anyways, and here's a skin, like I don't know. I remember like going into GameStop and actually like pre-ordering stuff. And
you pre-order because for the 30 copies that they ordered, you don't want to be person number 31 or 32 in the door or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like they used to have like, maybe they still do this. I have no idea. But I went to one once. I think it was for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, where I had like the midnight release or whatever, and everyone's like standing in line, like wrapped around the building, like waiting to get in to get their copy. Like,
last time I went to one of those was like November of 2008 at the Best Buy for Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, okay. That would have been about the same time.
Dude, a bunch of fucking Warcraft nerds, like 100 of us standing in line waiting for midnight, all talking to each other. It's so funny because there's people that we start just kind of talking about PvP and things like that. You'd hear something, somebody says Gorefiend, you're like, wait, are you talking about the character or the server? Oh, the server. Oh shit, I'm on Gorefiend. What guild are you in? Oh shit, we've been ganking you guys for like 2 years, right? You end up talking to somebody and like we just grief each other all the time. It was really funny. But that's the last time I went to a midnight release. There's a certain kinship, that's a certain bonding that's formed in those sorts of situations, that we just miss out on in this digital age.
Yeah, and I feel like that's part of the reason why I like going to tournaments still, is like you get that same kind of feel, and like you end up talking to people that you never would, we wouldn't think to talk to before, and like it's just like the one thing that everyone has in common there, right? Like all these people in this one spot that just have this one thing in common, and you can kind of talk to anybody about anything, and like, I don't know. It's something about that atmosphere that really does it for me,
Dude, there's something about going somewhere, anticipating something, leaving the house, going and buying it, bringing it home in a new bag, and wrapping it while I'm walking up the stairs and tripping over myself because every second counts at this point,
right.
That sort of thing. Like, it's like buying a new CD. People are like physical, tangible stuff. I don't really care anymore. I don't like the clutter, and I'm not into games kind of like how I used to be. It's very kind of like, as much as I play them, it's more of like a passive thing. It's a hobby. It has my interest, and it's kind of like a time killer, but I don't feel like it's productive like other hobbies that I have, right? So it's hard for me to kind of like classify it in the same thing as, as other things. But I don't know. I understand the appeal, and people don't want physical media and stuff. And there is something, and as much as we try to duplicate it, it's just lost, right? That was like time and a place sort of thing. It's like longing for the rotary phone for whatever reason.
Yeah.
While you have a phone with a silicone chip in it that's stronger than, it's like 100 times stronger than the first PC I ever owned, the first desktop PC I ever owned. It's so crazy. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. And I gotta tell you, what a time to say goodbye for another week.
Oh my God, I just can't. I'm fainting over here.
Welcome back, Hatyr. Glad that you eased you back into that one.
Yeah, thanks. And again, shout outs to Blue for filling in last week.
Yeah, shout outs to Blue. You can hang out and chat with Blue yourself if you want. But join the Bonehawk Discord for $1. Link in the description. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like because it really helps me out, and subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks next video.
Accept your death.